Hello, and welcome back to the Proving Culture sessions. In the first session, we explored the idea of workplace culture to create an image for assessors or auditors to look for when identifying workplace culture. Workplace culture is the invisible force of shared beliefs, norms, and behaviors that determine whether employees feel safe to speak up, take risks, and collaborate openly. If you recall, that was one of the primary definitions from session one. In the second session, we demonstrated real tangible means for measuring and analyzing workplace culture using three audit trails: ISO 45003, maturity models, and ISO 10010. Both of those ISO standards were mentioned and discussed in session two. In this third session, we will look at current and future expectations in the ISO management system standards themselves that call for this existence and demonstration of a workplace culture for both quality and workplace safety. It's here that we will guide auditors to the specifics they should be prepared to confirm with this new understanding of workplace culture. So let's get started. Current ISO certification standards for quality 9001 and workplace safety 45001 contain elements that call for or benefit from a strong workplace culture. In ISO 45001, there are direct requirements for developing and maintaining a workplace culture in Clause 5.4, which is not found in other standards. Quite interesting that the 45001 standard has this Clause 5.4. It requires a demonstration of consultation and participation from workers in the design and use of any management systems. Both standards currently contain language in Clause 5.1 that requires leadership to consider aspects of workplace culture as we've defined it just before. Clause 6.1.2.1 in ISO 45001 currently requires organizations to look at psychosocial aspects that are deeper in detail. If you go to that same clause in the ISO 45003 psychosocial safety in the workplace that we talked about in the last session, it broadens the offerings there. We explored two ISO guidance standards in the last session for workplace culture. Both offer some tools and directions for considering workplace culture and psychosocial safety factors that may be relevant to any workforce in any organization in any sector of the economy. These standards are now anticipated to steer the changes in the certification standards for addressing the existence and benefits of workplace culture. We'll look at that a little bit more in just a moment. So what we have right now is kind of an idea here of establishing trust, psychological safety in the workplace, aspects of fairness and respect, inclusion and equity, leadership and their role, and this drive for continual improvement. So some of these things are already there and established that get us off the ground when it comes to talking about culture, workplace culture. So, emerging expectations in the ISO standards. We talked about two of them in particular, the 9001 quality standard, which we believe is coming out in 2026. Emerging changes in 45001 are likely in 2027. They'll have more detailed consideration for workplace organization details. So I did mention briefly the existing clause 5.1 for each. What we're likely to see coming up for 9001 is language on the determination, implementation, improvement of organizational mission, vision, and values, and promotion of an aligned quality culture. So that definition dives deeper into an expectation for workplace culture in 9001. Likewise, in 45,001, the expectation right now is that organizations are encouraged reporting of incidents, hazards, risks, and opportunities, which include ensuring workers are protected from reprisals. So, a lot of tying the culture to leadership. 9001 is going to have some more human-centric language. We'll see psychosocial risks become more detailed and well-defined part of 45,001. Considerations for mental health and well-being, and that culture for reporting and learning. These are some of the things we should be expecting in the standards. So let's take a little deeper dive into what we expect to see. 9001, organizational culture as a management responsibility. There'll be some emphasis on leadership and the need to shape and sustain the culture. So we really have to see leadership pursue and achieve and sustain workplace culture in the standard. Culture will be more explicitly tied to the effectiveness of the QMS. So we talked about why do we need ways to measure it, not just for external auditors, but internally, can we see progress and how do we measure progress? Because we need to prove it to ourselves and then prove it externally. That's going to be one of the expectations. Certainly worker engagement and empowerment and employee involvement in quality initiatives, looking for more evidence straightforward of that, recognizing cultural effects of how people report problems, contribute ideas, and follow processes. Going to be interesting to see that evolve as well. Risk-based thinking, expanding human factors. When you think of examples like resistance to change, fear of reporting issues, how do you factor that into the risk and opportunity landscape with your workforce? There could be personal risks, there could be external or societal risks, some of those kinds of things that, how do they affect the risk and opportunity landscape for quality? I mentioned before, more human-centric language, so that people will embrace this part of the standard strongly. And then certainly the digital transformation, integration of digital tools and technologies into quality management and workplace operations. It's coming fast. There are a lot of digital tools, AI-enabled solutions. Who has access to these tools? What does that access do for people in their support for quality? So these are some of the things that when you change the playing field in those ways, you've got to understand how that influences how people are able to support quality. And then an emphasis certainly on data security, AI governance, and performance metrics for this digital transformation. So is it working? Are we not losing people? Are people struggling to maintain their engagement because former, I'll call them analog solutions, paper and pen, are now more digital in the workplace? So let's take a quick look at 45,001. Four areas of change that we forecast are organizational culture definition. The Technical Committee 283 has signaled that the next revision will define and address organizational culture explicitly in the standards. So let's see what that definition is going to be. Probably pretty much what I've been talking about in these sessions thus far. Certainly a draft amendment is already in process. So we'll start to get terms like organizational culture, psychosocial risk, well-being. What exactly is expected in ISO 45001? Certainly those psychosocial risks and mental health going to be part of an increased emphasis on addressing those kinds of hazards, work-related stresses, bullying, harassment, all that kind of stuff. And certainly in alignment with 45,003, as we've mentioned before. A third area of focus for the future 45,001 for workplace culture is a focus on leadership behavior and communication styles. There's a lot of information out these days on how leadership can tailor their communication style to impact a widening culture within workforces and generational challenges and differences. Having the right communication style to get your message across is going to be very important. And with that come strong expectations for transparent, inclusive decision making and mechanisms for worker feedback. So clear communication and making people more involved. And then finally, maintain that culture of reporting and learning, the need for a just culture where people can safely report issues, and there's this cultural maturity going on for assuring continual improvement in workplace safety. So what does this mean in the end? Practical implications for organizations. What should you be doing now? Certainly assess and develop organizational culture using diagnostics and surveys. We talked about some of these, and there are a lot of other opportunities out there for you to pursue, but certainly where do you stand right now is something that you could be leading into. Training leaders and managers in cultural competence and people-centered leadership. Let's get that started. I mentioned a few books. There are others out there. Maybe those are some good management reads right now to get an idea if you're not already on a good, strong pathway to establishing workplace culture. And then integrating cultural related metrics into your internal audits, management reviews. What are you seeing? How can you measure success before the likes of the third-party ISO auditors come in once the standard takes effect? So getting that stuff, measuring your progress is important right now. And then recognizing culture as a strategic enabler for both quality and safety goals. A lot's been written and communicated out on that. So let's take a moment here and review what I hope you've come across and learned a little bit on in these sessions so far. I hope to have additional sessions for proving culture as the thought on it grows. So stay tuned. But let's review things that affect organizations with ISO or other management system standards. There are a lot of organizations, especially in the US, ANSI, Z10, or OSHA VPP certified safety management systems. A lot of this, what I've been talking about in these three sessions, applies across those standards as well. We gain an awareness of what workplace culture is and how it's defined, and a variety of tools to help us understand what it looks like. We showcase currently available tools found in ISO guidance that help management systems implementers, quality assurance professionals, workplace safety professionals get there. Those standards have been out for several years. Go take a look at 45,003 and 10,010. And then we gain an understanding of what coming expectations are going to look like in the standards for 9,001 and 45,001 so that you are able to prove culture to your auditors. So we hope that these conversations and presentations help you to get your organization started in raising awareness for workplace culture and embracing the performance gains from a structured systems approach.